Ladies and gentlemen, live from the West Coast, it's time for Ring Talk Live Worldwide.
Hey, yo.
For over 30 years, and still, your inside look into boxing and mixed martial arts.
You know what? As long as she fights at 135 pounds, I don't care if she's injecting a horse demon into her eyeballs.
Heard live around the world and brought to you by the World Boxing Organization. And now, live from the Ring Talk Studios in San Francisco, here's the host of the longest-running fight show in history, Pedro Fernandez.
Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the multi-million-dollar Sports Byline Studios in San Francisco, California. This is, check it, Ring Talk Live Worldwide. 35 plus years now, often imitated but never duplicated. Here I sit. My name is Pedro Fernandez. I am your host. I'll be joined a little while by the undefeated lad from Las Vegas, Johnny Sig. Larry Merchant will be here. We'll go to tape. We'll hear from Pernell Whitaker. That's right. The late, great, of course, passed away this week when he got hit by a car in his native Virginia. Unfortunate as that may be, but man, can I say, don't step out into the street unless you know what's happening. Bottom line is, we'll hear from Pernell and we'll hear from Genaro Hernandez. That's right. Genaro Hernandez, of course, the late champion at 126 and 130 pounds, passed away from cancer a few years ago. I play his interview every couple of years, especially in June or July, because, well, I remember Genaro. So we're going to go back in time with Genaro Hernandez as well, an hour number 2. So we've got 2 hours of Ring Talk Live Worldwide on Sports Byline, iHeartRadio, and Sirius XM Satellite Radio, of course, channel 211. At least they pick up the first hour. But we have open phone lines all around the planet. You can join us here on the toll-free if you'd like. 1-800-878-7529. That's 1-800-878-7529. Or the more popular, the no commitment, guilt-free text line. I'm laughing because the text line is already jumping. The text number, 1-415-275-1613. That's right. Text the studio. Ready? 415-275-1613. Once again, the studio text line, 415-275-1613. So unless you've been under a rock, you know Manny Pacquiao pulled off a pretty significant upset last night, beating a guy 10 years younger than him. Straight up, Keith Thurman came to fight, but Keith Thurman just didn't have it. Manny Pacquiao, all the props. Superman is Manny Pacquiao. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide.
In the palm of my hand.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Manny Pacquiao, folks. 62-7. Give him props. 40 years old, turning back not only Father Time, but Keith Thurman, an aggressive Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman thought it would be a walk in the park. I thought maybe the bigger guy would prevail. Straight up, it wasn't a matter of size. It was a matter of skill, speed, and guile. Bottom line is, at the end of 12 rounds last night, Manny Pacquiao definitely deserved to win. Unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, but bottom line is Glenn Feldman, one judge, had it the other way. And that was a hard fight going the other way because I had it 7-4-1. 7 rounds for Manny Pacquiao, 4 rounds for Keith Thurman, and 1 round even. There turned out to be a 116-113 score. So for Glenn Feldman to go the other way and to have Keith Thurman winning that fight when I thought Keith Thurman was like toast. He was broken down early on. Yes, he had a couple of good rounds where he looked okay, but the bottom line is Manny Pacquiao shined throughout that fight. In the 10th round, I think he doubled him over with a body shot. Pretty good. I mean, for a little guy, a guy that started off at 107 3/4 pounds. That's what he fought at when he turned pro in 1995. Of course, now a pro 24 years later, Manny Pacquiao, the WBA welterweight champion of the world. First up, besides giving him props, you got to give Keith Thurman some props as well. He did go 12 rounds. Let's see what these guys had to say post-fight.
62nd career victory for Manny Pacquiao in his 71st pro bout. Only his second win via split decision. His first back in 2008 over Juan Marquez here in Las Vegas. To Heidi Andro.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Well, Manny, all week you told us that you wanted to prove that you could still do it at 40 years old. Well, you certainly did that here tonight. You were smiling. How fun was this fight for you?
Oh, it's fun. I mean, I'm getting hard for my opponent because he's not easy opponent. He's a good fighter. He's a good boxer. So he's strong. I really love the fans. Thank you so much for coming here and witness the fight. I'm sure you're happy tonight because you see a good fight. Even though Thurman he lost, but he did his best. I mean, he's not easy opponent. He's a good boxer. He's strong, and I mean, I think I just blessed tonight.
You know, you haven't fought 3 times in 1 year since 2000. Staples Center, September 28th. It's Errol Spence, Sean Porter, potentially the winner of that fight.
Yeah, I hope I can watch that fight. I'm going to witness the fight.
Well, congratulations on an amazing win here at the MGM at 40 years old. You still got it, Manny Pacquiao. All right, standing to my left, Keith, you lost the 0 tonight, but you did so in spectacular fashion. When you heard the split decision, what was going through your mind?
I knew it was too close. You know, he got the knockdown, so he had momentum in round 1. You know, I want to thank the fans. I want to thank everybody coming out. This was a beautiful night of boxing. Manny Pacquiao was a truly great, legendary champion. Oh, Senator, great as ye, oh, Senator. I promised I'd say that if he won tonight, and he did. He got the victory over me. I wish I had a little bit more output.
Straight up, Keith Thurman, like being as blunt and honest as he could be post-fight. Props to Keith Thurman. A lot of people didn't like him going in. I was one of them. Johnny Signorello, the undefeated lad from Las Vegas, now joins us. Johnny Sig, straight up, could you believe that Glenn Feldman thought that Keith Thurman won the fight?
Unbelievable. But in boxing, as we know, especially when it comes to scoring, anything is possible. I had to fight 115, 112, 7 rounds to 5. With the knockdown, you get the 115, 112. 114, 113 in favor of Thurman. A little crazy to me.
At the end of the day, though, the right guy won. And Mark Ratton used to tell me that all the time when I used to go to him and say, Dalby Shirley, I can't believe Dalby Shirley went the other way. Pedro, don't make a big deal about it. The right guy won. As long as the right guy won, that's all we're concerned with. And the right guy won that side. Although he was 40 years old, I mean, knocking him down in the first round didn't look like much of a punch, but then again, I've been caught by right hooks from southpaws, and you don't see him coming. And guess what? He left that he left his left out there, and that's what I mean by that, folks. Is Radio Land, is that he threw a jab and he sort of dropped his hand and he brought it back down around his waist. And Manny hit him with that right hook, and wasn't much of a punch, but it was clean into the face and the jaw, and boom, down went Keith Thurman. From that point forward, I thought Thurman was a broken man. Did he resurrect himself? Did he believe in himself at any point after that?
Late in the fight, he came on a little bit. Pacquiao was great with angles and experience and good hand and foot speed. The angles were really killing Keith early. And I'm glad that Keith didn't run. He put his nose in there. He tried to fight. He caught Pacquiao good a couple times, was building momentum late. That body shot in round 10 said to all that momentum that Keith was building up, buddy, not up in here. And he got hit to that pit of that stomach, boy, and he doubled over. I am super impressed. And, you know, I respect Keith Thurman so much for dealing with so much adversity in that fight. I'm surprised he didn't go down again later in that fight.
Of course, it was a good win for Manny Pacquiao, a great win for boxing, a great win for the establishment, a great win for fans, because if you felt that 7.5 earthquake last night, that was the people in Manila jumping up and down. I mean, it was crazy over there in the Philippines, here in Daly City, California, which is like a Manila 2 or Little Manila, they call it. It was like going wild. People were driving through the streets, hitting their horns, the whole 9 yards. Of course, they were celebrating the great win of Manny Pacquiao. Now, you'll be back in 20 minutes to discuss the undercard. Of course, Larry Merchant's going to join us in just a minute. But the undercard, why was it such a miserable undercard? Why didn't one of the opponents win one round on any of the undercard bouts?
Well, you said it right there. A lot of mismatches, you know, a lot of showcase bouts. We had a walk-in guy, which is always a last-minute sub when I refer to a walk-in opponent, a guy that picks up a fight on short notice, and he was blown out in that fight. So, I mean, if you like the knockouts, you got some of those. If you're a casual, you were entertained. The fights moved rather quickly. We had an early KO a couple times early in the stages of the undercard. So that's always a good thing if you're just trying to have a party and just, have it on in the background before the main event comes on.
Straight up, you're tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. This is the Sunday edition. Of course, 2 hours. We start at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time each and every Sunday here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM Satellite Radio, Channel 211, the Dan Patrick Channel, the Cable Radio Network, Channel 2, iTunes, Stitcher.com, TuneIn.com. I keep going, but the bottom line is, you're tuned to Ring Talk, 35 plus years now, often imitated but never duplicated. You're finding out why. Next up, the Godfather, retired HBO Godfather Larry Merchant in the house talking Manny Pacquiao's upset win over Keith Thurman on pay-per-view Saturday night.
Now, more of Ring Talk with Pedro Fernandez.
He is the greatest fighter of all times next to me.
Godfather of Soul? That must mean the retired HBO Godfather himself is in the house, Mr. Larry Merchant. A very good morning to you, sir.
And a very good morning it is, Pedro, after that terrific fight last night.
Terrific fight. The guys didn't let up for 12 rounds, and Manny Pacquiao doesn't defy the odds. He was actually the betting favorite, but he defied Father Time. And Larry, I went with the younger guy. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit it. I thought the younger guy would prevail, but there was nowhere in that fight that I ever think that Keith Thurman was even close to being in control.
Well, I thought that Thurman would win as well. The old saying is that a great fighter always has one great fight left in him, but eventually Father Time tells them that's it, no more. Mm-hmm. And given the dynamic style of Pacquiao, you can even multiply that in the sense that older fighters just don't move that way for 12 rounds when they're fighting good young fighters. So all we can do is salute Manny Pacquiao again. I did think that there were times that he was marked up and hurt by Thurman, but every single time he
came back.
He jumped back into the fray.
He would not let Thurman grab. He would not let Thurman grab the momentum. He just wouldn't let him do it.
Well, he's been there before. I thought Thurman tried his best. I thought he had a lot of good moments in the fight. I think the fight stats show that he landed more punches. So it wasn't like he was out of the fight. That would be a bad impression to leave. Okay. There were times when you thought that he was Father Time catching up to Pacquiao in some of those middle and later rounds. But Pacquiao endured. And I'm thinking to myself, after that devastating knockout by Marquez years ago, just imagine how Pacquiao has gotten off the floor and look at where he is now.
A pro since 1995 and 106 pounds, 107 3/4 pounds when he turned pro back in 1995 in the Philippines. Wow, that's a long time ago. And, of course, speaking of Marquez was offered $100 million to come back and fight Manny Pacquiao another time, and he turned that down. And I went to the source, and the source verified it that these people were willing to put $100 million up for him to fight him either in Japan or either in Asia or Las Vegas. Holy cow, that takes a lot of guile to turn away $100 million.
Well, it tells me that he saved his money.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Or he didn't squander it, which may or may not be the same thing. And that he had a sense of pride about that. Given all of the outstanding Mexican fighters, Herrera, Morales, etc., who Pacquiao fought, here's Marquez finally closing that chapter in Pacquiao's life with that one-punch knockout. Mm-hmm. And maybe in some way he may be rewarded for his lifetime by his followers and whatever other things he does, because he ended his career with that knockout.
Well, it looks as if Manny Pacquiao may go to Saudi Arabia or Dubai and possibly take on Amir Khan in a big money fight, because the Arabs will pay just about anything to get somebody to come over there of note, that big anyway. Or they're even talking about a Floyd Mayweather rematch. Are you hearing anything like that, Godfather?
Only from you, Pedro.
Oh, man. That's terrible when it's only
after
coming from me.
After that fight last night, would you really want to see a rematch of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight?
No, I never want to see Mayweather. I never want to see Mayweather.
No,
period.
but just think of the two fights, and why wouldn't we want to see a rematch of last night?
Good point.
Rather than a rematch of years ago. Now, would they make a lot of money? Absolutely. Is that what the game is about? Sure. But I don't know that anybody knows what's in Mayweather's mind or Pacquiao's mind. They made hundreds of millions of dollars in that fight. It's hard to ignore that they could make a lot of money in a rematch and that it would captivate the world just as the first fight did. But I'm not sure that it can be made or that Pacquiao wants to do it.
Well,
if we should hear about it tomorrow or next year, I wouldn't be shocked.
Listen, I'm still of the opinion, I may be in the minority here, but I'm still of the opinion that Mayweather has pulled off the biggest con since Robert Redford and Paul Newman in the movie The Sting in the 70s, maybe before that. I just thought the fact that, he kept claiming he was going to knock this guy out and destroy this guy and do this and do that and do this and do that, and then he wouldn't fulfill any of those predictions out there, and yet the people kept coming back to him.
Pedro, he never meant them. He never meant them. He's a genius at self-promotion, at promoting. He saw what the public wanted in the build-ups to his fights later in his career. He never meant that he was going to go out there and destroy anybody. That's never been his aim. Now, has he beaten up some guys and stopped a few guys? Absolutely, but especially when he was a lightweight, where he really was a wonderful fighter. But that said, to him, the less action in the fight, the better it is. And he came out of the dressing room thinking, I'm not going to take any chances, and he rarely did.
And I understand that, but what is ironic about this is that these millions and millions of people that tune in to see Floyd Mayweather fights keep buying it. In other words, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And
well, he learned how to use modern media to sell himself and his fights. There's no doubt about it. If he was going to be the villain, he was happy to be the villain. But he was never going to take a chance in the ring. That's not how he thinks or acts, and it never changed. He got a few knockouts here and there, but in the last decade of his career, when he was fighting welterweights, he wasn't much interested in testing his offense. He was interested in not getting hit first, second, and third.
Switching gears, 1984 Olympian, of course, we're talking about Pernell Whitaker, passed away this week, got hit by a car. Will Whitaker go down for I guess, for getting robbed against Chavez? I mean, that's what everybody was talking about this week. Is that his zenith?
Well, look, it's understandable that in arguably his two biggest fights
got burned
against De La Hoya and Chavez, the case can be made strongly that he won both fights, and he didn't. But at the end of the day, he won an Olympic gold medal. He became a champion. He became a long-time dominant champion. He's in the Hall of Fame. He did pretty damn good.
You know, I remember him being in total shock after the Taylor Chavez fight. We were in the post-fight press conference, and Dan Duva's telling people that Meldrick has gone to the hospital. And Pernell, you know, all the times he's been talkative and stimulated and all that stuff in his entire life, he was like speechless that night. He couldn't believe it.
Well, Meldrick Taylor was he was a teammate and a stable mate, and he was winning the fight. And Chavez never stopped trying and never stopped coming. And we had that ending that was very, very controversial.
12th
I
round.
certainly thought it was a bad call. But be that as it may,
do you know, Godfather? You thought it was, you know who blew that fight for Meldrick Taylor? Lou Duva. He got up on the apron in Meldrick's corner, and he's up on the apron. He's standing on the apron. He's got the towel on his shoulder. He isn't waving the towel or anything, but he's on the apron. And when you get knocked down as a fighter, what they usually tell you is, look to your corner for advice. Look to your corner for advice. So Meldrick was looking over at Lou Duva standing vertically on the ring apron, and I think he didn't give the attention to Richard Steele. Had he paid attention to Richard Steele, I don't think Steele would have stopped it.
Well, I think, that argument has been made many times. I think that Lou Duva was concerned about what was happening to his fighter. He was taking tremendous punishment at the end of the fight, and I think it was just a kind of instinctual jumping onto the ringside edge, and it could have cost Taylor the fight. You are correct, sir.
Okay. None of the opponents won any undercard rounds last night. And you talked about you and I talked about that being promotion. Al Heyman just putting his guys in the spotlight. Is Sean Porter and Earl Spence a pay-per-view fight?
Well, I'm a little surprised, but after Spence's victory over Mikey Garcia, they feel he has an audience, that he's built himself up into a semi-star, if not a full-blown star or a superstar, in terms of his public appeal. And that will be an interesting test. They'll hype it. You have to give Fox credit for how they are taking their big fights as they enter a new phase of their interest in fights and promoting the hell out of them. And that's a big plus. So if they get a few 100,000 fans, and they can make some serious 8-figure money, hey, good luck to them.
Last question for the Godfather. I saw Mikey Garcia, the aforementioned Mikey Garcia, explaining on that pay-per-view show last night to Sean Porter on how to fight Earl Spence. Shouldn't Mikey Garcia be the last person on the planet giving any advice on how to fight Spence?
I don't think so. Garcia's a smart guy. He's probably looked at the film. He probably knows how to try to fight Spence. Fighting Spence and trying to fight Spence are not necessarily the same thing. But he might have some wisdom to pass on. Who knows?
Godfather, all the best. You say hello to the Godmama for me. Give her a big kiss. We'll talk soon.
You got it, Pedro.
The Hall of Famer, Larry Merchant, live on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Next up, talking boxing still, maybe fit in some MMA as well. Of course, you're tuning to the mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network and Ring Talk live worldwide on Sports Byline, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM Satellite Radio, and Channel 211. Let this song play. 2019 version, baby. The Godfathers of Soul himself, Mr. Funk. Emilio Castillo put this together for Tower of Power, of course, on the soul side of town. Check it out. It is a fantastic LP. I love about 3 or 4 cuts on it. If I get into 3 or 4 cuts, it's so vintage Tower Power. Some of it's just so vintage Tower Power. Other stuff is was sort of diverse. Speaking of diverse, I went to Yoshi's on Friday night and saw Greg Adams, one of the founding members of Tower Power. Of course, he's involved in a band called East Bay Soul. They just celebrated their 10th anniversary, and I think their 3rd or 4th CD. But Greg was rocking and rolling, and Greg tore down the house, no doubt about it. It was Greg's house Friday night at Yoshi's in Oakland, California, Jack London Square. Straight up, the UFC rocking and rolling, of course. Yeah, people say to me, Pedro, the UFC's supplying all kinds of knockouts. I mean, let me think about it. Well, there's Amanda Nunes. She knocks out Holly Holm. And, of course, there's Jorge Masvidal knocking out Mr. Ben Askren in the blink of an eye. I mean, holy cow, that was in 5 seconds. But there's been other knockouts. And it just seems like everybody's getting knocked out. Yeah, but not on last night's card. People weren't getting knocked out. I'm talking about a card, we'll kind of put this. It was on ESPN, and you've got to have the apps now, of course, to watch the UFC. The UFC's rocking and rolling only on ESPN, and for the most part, ESPN or ESPN Plus. I think they do their occasional pay-per-view shows, but for the most part, they're doing all their programming now is on ESPN, which is sort of cool because if you got the app and it costs you $5 a month to get the app, you get to see a lot of good fights. Last night, Rafael Dos Santos, of course, a former lightweight champion, 155 pounds, stepped up and has been fighting at 170 pounds at welterweight. Well, last night he was turned back by Leon Edwards, of course, with a unanimous nod across the board. Edwards has now won 8 in a row in the UFC.
The judges score the contest 50-45, 49-46, and 49-46 for the winner by unanimous decision, Leon Rocky Edwards.
All right, San Antonio, Leon Rocky Edwards has officially arrived. Congratulations, 8 consecutive welterweight wins, and none sweeter than this one. My broadcast partner, Dominic Cruz, thought you fought a near-perfect fight tonight. How do you feel about your performance?
I feel great. San Antonio, what's up? I'm on an 8-fight win streak. One of the hardest division in the sport. There's a little weasel called George Masvidal. Accept the fight and let's do it. You're not on my level. Let's make the fight happen. Me, George Masvidal. Let's make the fight happen.
You have just been a picture of composure and focus all week long. A lot of people questioned how it would go over 25 minutes against someone in Dos Anjos that is as tested as it gets. What did you prove to yourself and your team, if anything, in this win tonight?
I am old, 27 years old. I am still growing and still learning. And to compete against a former world champion in RDA and did what I did, I feel great. I'm proving to the kids that come from the UK that you can stay in the UK and do it, so I'm very happy with my performance today.
You can certainly stay in the UK and become a world champion. Before we spin it forward, just in terms of the strategy tonight, in that first round, you went for the takedown early. Was that something you guys talked about to mix it up and give him a lot to think about right out of the chute?
100%. I think before Kamaru Usman, and he did the same exact thing to him. Once RDA started losing, it's hard for him to come back and get the win. So I knew coming into the fight, once I take the first 2 rounds, I'm going to win the fight because it rarely comes back and win after losing 2 rounds. So that was my game plan, and it worked perfectly.
All right, well, you stepped up in a big way, won this main event tonight. As you spin it forward now in 2019, when are you going to get back in here? And is it going to be Usman, Masvidal? Call your shot.
I want one more end of the year, and the little weasel, George Masvidal, I'd love to get him. If not, give me the rematch. Give me the rematch against Kamaru Usman. He was the last guy to beat me 4 years ago, and I love my rematch, so let's make it happen.
What an honor to watch you do your thing tonight. Go enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, your main event winner, Leon Rocky Edwards.
Rocky Edwards, impressive, of course, 8 wins in a row at 170 pounds in the UFC. That is noteworthy, no doubt about it. But the former champion, Rafael Dos Anjos, of course, what can I say? He was a lightweight. When he stepped up to 170, he's not a big guy. When you're not, how can I put this? 15 pounds. There's 15 pounds in between these weight classes. There shouldn't be 15 pounds in between these guys. There probably should be maybe 7.5 pounds. They should cut them to half divisions. They should bring in junior divisions, and they should do it real quick because I think that the guys that get clipped at one weight, can't make like 155 anymore. They can make 160 or 165, but they can't make 160, 155. I think they should be given a junior weight class. This is the way I see it. Anyway, Max Holloway coming back next week. Max Holloway taking on Frankie Edgar in the main event, of course, defending the UFC 145-pound championship. On the same card, the former featherweight champion, women's title. I'm talking about Chris Cyborg Santos, who got knocked out in the blink of an eye by Amanda Nunes. Amazing Amanda, of course, amazing Amanda, knocking out everybody, knocking out Holly Holm a fortnight ago with a leg kick. Ew, that was ugly. Anyway, for Holly Holm was ugly, but Holly recovered well. And I saw some video of her on Instagram. She was recovered well. She's a beautiful girl. She always has been a very attractive lady, both inside and outside. She's just pure as a driven snow. She is. I mean, she is the preacher's daughter. She lives up to that nickname like Andre Ward lives up to the Son of God nickname. They're both true to that. Anyway, it's time for her to walk away. She's like 37 years old, 38 years old, and she's had a lot of fights, maybe 40 professional fights as a boxer, and she's like not doing well in the UFC now. I think she's 4-5 in the UFC. Of course, she was 4-0 in the UFC after beating Ronda Rousey. Then they called the shots. Her and her team captain there, Lenny Fresquez, decided they were going to fight Miesha Tate, and the career was on a downhill spiral after that. Anyway, Chris Cyborg Santos coming back after the Amanda Nunes fight, taking on Felicia Spencer. Spencer's like a 5-1 underdog here, so I guess she has little or no chance, or maybe two chances, Slim and none, and Slim already left town. Jeff Neal's going to take on Nico Price. Nobody else on the card really stands out for me. Of course, that's part of the UFC 240 card. That'll be a pay-per-view event next week on pay-per-view coming to you from Alberta, Canada. Now, the card I'm excited about as far as the upcoming UFC events are concerned, UFC 242. And why? Because pound for pound, we have the best fighter in all of mixed martial arts, maybe in the history of mixed martial arts. They call him Khabib. I'm not going to get into his last name, but he's 24-0. You watch him destroy Conor McGregor. He's beaten up. Listen, he's beaten Scott Cuddy not once but twice. Okay? I mean, he is one bad dude. Khabib is undefeated in the world of mixed martial arts. He started out, we've got videos of him like wrestling bears and lions, and I'm serious. You think, oh yeah, right, Pedro? I'm serious. 27-0, according to his Wikipedia page. 27-0, 8 knockouts, 9 submissions, 10 decision wins. Man, 27-0. Never lost a fight. Never came close to losing a fight. Of course, against Conor, man, that was like stealing money. It's like stealing money. Conor didn't belong in the ring with him. Of course, he's the baddest dude in all of mixed martial arts, but he was suspended, of course, after that Conor McGregor fight when he jumped over the cage and went after a couple of people, and more power to him. I thought he was not entitled to do that, but maybe justified in the fact that, Conor McGregor called his Muslim religion all kinds of filthy names and called his father all kinds of filthy names and went down streets that you just don't go. There's certain areas, there's certain alleys you just don't go down when you're talking smack about somebody, and that includes bringing in a person's parents, be it their mother or their father or their wife. You just don't do that. Conor stepped over the line, and he got bitch slapped for it. I'm happy for it. Now Conor McGregor trying to come back in the world of mixed martial arts. Yeah, I'm excited. Why am I excited? Because he can't get a championship fight. They're not talking about title fights anymore. Dana White said he's not a championship caliber anymore. Well, he hasn't won in a couple of years now. He hasn't won in a long time. Hasn't. I'm talking about Conor McGregor. Of course, the last fight he had was Conor McGregor was with Khabib. Before that, it was, the Floyd Mayweather thing. And that really wasn't much of a fight. All that was cashing in and Floyd doing his thing. Got to pull it off. As much as I despise Mayweather and his boxing status is, I'm going to go out there and be the best I can. He ain't the best. In fact, the aforementioned Pernell Whitaker, who Larry brought up, of course, he'll be here in hour number 2, not live in the living color, but on tape in the living color. I thought that he was the best of all time as far as defensive skills are concerned. I mean, I don't think he would have been able to stop the force of Roberto Duran at 135, but I think that it would have been one hell of a fight. I mean, Duran was just too strong. And, of course, Whitaker making it at 135 and then moving up to 147, that's one hell of a jump. I tried to jump from 140 to 147 and got spanked. That's a hell of a jump. And Pernell did it. Pernell went up to 154 and won a title. But at 147, he schooled Julio Cesar Chavez. Let me tell you how bad he schooled him. I'm supposed to go into this in hour number 2, but I'll do some of it now. We're at the fight over at Ricky's Sports Theater in San Leandro, California, and I'm hanging out with the the NFL Hall of Famer Jack Tatum. Jack Tatum, they wrote a book. He wrote a book. There's a book on him called "They Call Me Assassin." He was like the hardest hitting defensive back, maybe him and Ronnie Lott, I think I've ever seen. Anyway, he hit a guy named Darryl Stingley, a wide receiver for the New England Patriots, I believe. He hit Stingley and he paralyzed Stingley, so that was an ugly blight on his career. But he didn't do it intentionally. He was just doing his job, as the hitman. I'm talking about Jack Tatum. Anyway, Jack and I are that night at Ricky's, and we bet $25 on the fight. So after the 10th round, I just went and gave him my $20. I just did. I have to give him my $20. And here, Jack, I said, there's no way Chavez won this fight, so here's my $20. So I sat down, and I expected Chavez to lose the fight and that Whitaker would have his hand raised. Well, after 12 rounds, they went the other way. They didn't give it to Chavez. They may as well. They called it a draw. Somehow, that was a draw. It was sort of like playing blackjack. This is the way I'm going to explain it to you, to the listeners, okay? You're sitting at home, maybe with your friends, or you're in a casino, and you're playing blackjack. And you get a king and an ace. And that's blackjack, right? I mean, that beats anything, right? And then the guy across from you, he gets a queen and a 3. He's got 13, and yet he wins. That doesn't work out. It doesn't equate, does it? Well, that's what it's sort of like when you get screwed in a boxing match, is that you've got this king and this ace in your hand. Okay, you know what you're playing, the cards that you're playing. You've schooled somebody, and yet it goes the other way. Straight up, I thought he was very unfortunate against both Pernell Whitaker, against both Oscar De La Hoya, as Larry said, and of course the fight with that fight with Julio Cesar Chavez in Texas, 85,000 people there. Guess what? They weren't shouting Chavez at the end. So we'll hear from Pernell Whitaker in hour number 2. We'll also delve into the world of the future of boxing in hour number 2. We'll talk about the upcoming fights. Of course, the big fight I thought this past weekend, and we'll get into that just a little bit, I think, in hour number 2, was the Teofimo Lopez-Masayoshi Nakatami fight. Of course, both being undefeated. Nakatami coming in 18 and zip. 12 KOs out of Japan. Strong, tall, strong guy. And I think, like Socrates Palmer said on last week's show, the professor of pugilism, he said that that Teofimo was going to be able to taste some man strength. In other words, this guy was 30 years old. He was a real man. I'm talking about Nakatani. He was going to feel some man strength. Yes, I think he did feel some man strength. Of course, I got it handed to him. He said he had some boo-boos at the end, and he did have some boo-boos at the end. So it wasn't a perfect night for him, and I don't think he's the most focused young man in the entire world right now. I don't know if somebody can expand on that, because ESPN and a couple of other media groups have just expanded on his personal life and saying that he's distracted here, he's distracted there. I'll tell you about distraction. Last night, the greatest part, without a doubt, the greatest part of that pay-per-view show last night was Reggie Bush's wife's cleavage. Hate to say it, baby. $80, that was worth $80. You are tuned to the Mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Listen up, Amazon Prime members. For a limited time, you can start an Audible account. That's right, an Audible membership and save like 2/3 on your first 3 months, right? $30 off. It's like getting 3 months for the price of one. Check it out. $4.95 a month for the first 3 months. That's only $14.95 a month. Straight up, pretty good deal. No doubt about that. It's due. The offer expires July 31st. Check it out. Audible.com/ring. Straight up, you are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. I mentioned, of course, the aforementioned Khabib. We don't go into his last name because it's difficult, but the bottom line is you know who Khabib is if you're an MMA fan. You haven't been. If you don't, what can I say? Look up Khabib. All you do is Google him. Anyway, of course, Khabib is going to take on Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, in his last win, is now 25-5. Of course, took on Max Holloway. Max Holloway, of course, the aforementioned 145-pound champion, thought he would test the waters at 155 pounds, and guess what? He was too small. So he's moved back to 145. But Dustin Poirier is in a bad spot here. I mean, he really is in a bad spot. Whether it's 25-5, 26-5, doesn't matter. It's going to be 6 or 7. I mean, I can't imagine him beating Khabib if he had a club in his hand, and I don't mean just a wood club. I mean a lead club. I mean a club like made out of stone, maybe some marble or something like that. You've got to do something to Khabib to discombobulate him, and I just don't think it can be done. I really don't. I think he's got this extra he's got a cranium sort of like a monkey, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, but he's got this ape-like cranium, and it's thick, and he takes punishment well, and he's got the cauliflower ears. I mean, if ever there was a guy that was a boxer or a fighter per se, it's Khabib. No doubt about it. Khabib in action September 7th, live in Dubai, UFC 242, Khabib versus Poirier. The main event, Dustin Poirier and Khabib hooking it up for the 155-pound UFC Championship, September 7th in the Du Arena in Dubai, United Emirates. Check it out, UFC pay-per-view. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. This is hour number 1 of 2, of course. Hour number 2 upcoming. We'll hear from 2 fallen champions. Call it an hour of fallen champions. Maybe, not really. But we'll dwell on the past to an extent. We'll spend some time with Pernell Whitaker and Junaro Hernandez. Straight up, we're bringing Johnny Sig as well. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide on Sports Byline. Don't forget, if you lose us for hour number 2, you can always go to sportsbyline.com and check us out live. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide, Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. Pacific time on sportsbyline.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the West Coast, it's time for Ring Talk Live Worldwide.
Fascinating.
For over 30 years, and still your inside look into boxing and mixed martial arts.
What the hell's going on out here?
Heard live around the world and brought to you by the World Boxing Organization.
Yeah.
And now, live from the Ring Talk studios in San Francisco, here's the host of the longest-running fight show in history.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! And Thurman is as poised as can be!
Pedro Fernandez.
Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the multi-billion-dollar Sports Byline Studios in San Francisco, California. Check it. The man was correct. My name is Pedro Fernandez. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide. 35 plus years now, often imitated but hardly duplicated. Straight up, we talk boxing and mixed martial arts in this hour on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM Satellite Radio, the Dan Patrick Channel, Channel 211, and like a plethora of other internet platforms. Straight up, this is your inside look in the world of boxing and MMA. Of course, Manny Pacquiao, winner last night over Keith Thurman. A big surprise there in the minds of many. Not really. The odds makers, at the end of the day, had Manny Pacquiao favored. What I'm trying to tell you is more people thought that Pacquiao would win this fight than thought would lose this fight, and the odds makers were wrong when they originally said that Manny Pacquiao would get blown out here. I was wrong in thinking Manny Pacquiao would lose to the younger man. Manny Pacquiao defied Father Time. He turned back the clock, and he lit up put it this way. He lit Keith Thurman up like the White House Christmas tree. It was like a switch in the first round. Click! He clicked it on. At that point, from that point forward, I never thought that Keith Thurman was really in the fight. Every time that Keith came on, Manny would come back and come back stronger. He never wouldn't let the momentum get seized. More power to the Pac-Man, of course, the senator from the Philippines. But in this hour of Ring Talk Live Worldwide, we're not going to delve on that too much, although we may mention it time and again. But we'll look into the world of some past champions. Talk about the passing, of course, this week of Pernell Whitaker. Got hit by a car in Virginia. Of course, a former champion at 35, 47. He was a man, no doubt about that. Beat Chavez, beat De La Hoya. Didn't get the call either time. Lots of things to talk about with Pernell Whitaker, Junaro Hernandez, and, of course, Johnny Sig. So some good, some bad, some ugly in this hour of Ring Talk Live Worldwide on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network.
There's always so much oil in the ground. We can't lose.
Now, back to Pedro Fernandez with the MMA Hour.
Check it. You are tuned in the mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network. You can text us here in the studio. The text number is 1-415-275-1613. That's 1-415-275-1613. We're talking boxing and MMA, of course. Teofimo Lopez, a winner this past Friday night. Looking pedestrian in the minds of some, not so good in the minds of others.
Teofimo, you went past the 7th round for the first time in your career. I got boo-boos. You did, and really wide scorecards. Your dad was saying this guy was tough. What did you think of your performance tonight?
Horrible. But, it is what it is. The guy he's tall, 6 foot, man. But you know what? From this point on, we find guys my height. So we don't got to worry about nobody else no more. No more tall guys or anything, man. It's a takeover still, man. They wanted to see me go the distance. I did 12 rounds and a backflip. I'm still in shape.
Now, you talked about feeling how you were going to feel was going to determine how long you stayed at 135. How do you feel right now, and how long do you see yourself staying at lightweight?
I feel good. I made 134.4 yesterday, and I feel great, man, like a champ. Hopefully we can make the fight happen. Well, we are going to make the fight happen with Richard Comey. And then after that, we're getting all 4 belts with Lomachenko.
Now, you are lined up for a shot at Richard Comey for the title. He's got a great right hand. That right hand was landing tonight for Nakatani. What do you have to fix to become a world champion in your next fight?
Just little tune-ups, man. I get lazy in there. I slack off here and there, but, it's just part of the process. You know what I mean? I'm thankful right now, man. This is my first main event. Hey, it was 12 rounds. Am I proud of it? Nah. But I'm proud that I showed everybody that I could go 12 rounds.
I know your dad wants it. Do you still see Lomachenko in your future at 35?
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Loma got to fight a guy that's 6'2". So we're going to see the difference on that as well. He has a tough fight ahead of him. This guy was no pushover. He was undefeated, 18-0 with 12 knockouts from Japan. Ranked number 3. I was number 4. That's why we made it the IBF World Title Eliminator. This is what it's all about. Hey, and this is what it is, man. I can show that I can take a punch. I showed that I could stay to 12 rounds. Man, we're ready.
Thank you very much, Teofimo.
Straight up, Teofimo Lopez still undefeated, but he had a couple of boo-boos. Now, we take it to Las Vegas and bring back in the undefeated lad. I'm talking about John Signorella. Johnny and I had a bet. I bet Oscar Rivas. He had Dillian White. Of course, we bet $20 on that. $20 goes to a homeless guy. But I'm not giving you 5-1. You should have gave me 5-1 odds on that one, Johnny. You pulled a fast one on me.
Yeah, I picked the favorite there, but what a fight. I mean, Oscar Rivas did put Dillian White down around, I think it was the 10th round.
10th round.
But Dillian was in command the entire fight. Brilliant jab. Nice heavyweight scrap on DAZN last night at the O2 in London.
Speaking of Dillian White, is he a creditable top 2 or 3 guy?
Yeah, I mean, his only loss was to Joshua. He had Joshua stunned in that fight. And, he eventually got knocked out by Anthony Joshua, but that's his only loss. 26-1, now 18 KOs. And I think he's definitely a top 5 guy, if he's not a top 3 guy for you. Last night he was a little thick around the midsection. He usually is in better shape. I'd like to see him get down and weight just a little bit, because I think against the better guys, that extra weight will hurt him down the stretch.
Interesting. Some of the other fights in the weekend were, as I said, Lopez was a winner, Manny Pacquiao's a winner, Dillian White's a winner. Who was the big loser on the weekend, besides me not being able to hook up with Mrs. Reggie Bush?
I tell you what, Arthur Spielka last night got knocked out in devastating fashion, also in London at the O2 on DAZN.
I saw
against
that.
Derek Chisora. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was pretty sad. And what about this guy, Yordi Ugas? He's the ugliest fighter I've ever seen in my life, and I don't mean ugly like handsome-wise. I mean, it's like he fights so ugly, he looks like he's difficult to beat.
I'm about to start sleeping here.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy to fight. He fights in spurts. He'll throw, then he kind of goes complacent for a while. Weird rhythm, not very TV friendly. At 147, I don't know if I need to see him.
All right. But Omar Figueroa is supposed to be TV friendly. Is this guy got a thirst problem? Is he always thirsty, Johnny?
From what I hear, he likes the sauce. He likes to booze a little bit. His best weight was at 140. He likes to have fun. He always shows up. He could take a beating. He usually throws a lot more punches. Couldn't do it at 147 last night. Probably one of the more uglier fights, like you said, on the undercard last night.
He came in at 28-0-1, did Mr. Figueroa, of course, a second-generation fighter. Some of the other big fights on the weekend, Liam Williams, I think that was last weekend. Let's move ahead. How about Derek Chisora? Is he back in the mix, or is he still like a number 12 guy?
With his punching power, he's always in a fight. He could crack, man, and he lets it go. When he knows that you're hurt, he smells the blood because he's a seasoned veteran. So, yeah, he's definitely a player in the heavyweight ranks.
Wow. Next week, of course, Juan Carlos Ramirez and Maurice Hooker hooking up the 27th. Also on the 27th, looks like Gervonta Davis and Ricardo Nunez. I think, is that going to be on Showtime?
The Gervonta Davis, yeah, that's Showtime.
So is Showtime still in the game then, John?
Hardly, man. They're on life support. And look at what Fox was doing last night. For you guys that don't know, the PBC the promoter of last night's card used to be heavily involved with Showtime Networks. They're now involved with Fox. So long story short, Fox is doing the right thing, man. They're promoting the PBC heavily. They have all their fighters in their stable, all the meaningful guys come out and support. Like last night, we saw Andy Ruiz and Deontay Wilder, two heavyweight champions, sitting next to each other, giving a classy and fun interview, putting everyone in the limelight. So I think that these type of things that the PBC and Fox are doing together is going to totally wipe out Showtime, who doesn't have the type of platform and power that Fox does.
Most of the people that are long in the boxing tooth with a lot of acumen picked Keith Thurman to win this fight. Some of the younger people, some people not in the baby boomers or around that generation, they went with Manny Pacquiao. Why?
Well, name recognition, number one, and just because of the inactivity. If you knew anything about Keith going in, you knew he was a once-a-year type of fighter, where Pacquiao was more active and showing a lot more enthusiasm in the ring, still going into the fight like he's a kid going on a ride at Disneyland, smiling, having fun, fist pumping, you know. And Keith, to his credit, last night fought a very determined fight. If I knew that was the Keith going in, I might have changed my opinion about, I don't know, this might be a tough fight. Because that was one of the best performances I've seen from Keith, and I think in his loss he gains more fans and more respect than any of his wins.
I do too, but I still think that I don't know. Listen, you got to throw punches in bunches. He doesn't throw punches in bunches. It just there's a lot of boxing 101. I think that Keith Thurman lacks, and I think maybe the inactivity has a lot to do with it. Back to Mr. Davis. Talk about Gervonta Davis, of course, super featherweight, a southpaw. Pretty good record, man. I mean, 21 and zip, 20 KOs. Is he the real deal? And is this guy, Ricardo Nunes, comes in at 21 and 2? Has Ricardo got a shot here?
Ricardo has KO'd 9 of his last 10. Outside of that, not much is really known about him. Davis still getting tested like a lot of these kids at 130, 135, and 140 that are starting to make names for themselves. And until they start fighting each other, that's when we'll know. Like Teofimo Lopez mentioned, Richard Comey next. That's when we're going to start to see what's going down with these kids that are coming up. And who's going to be the last man standing should be really interesting.
Lopez, I've got some video of him partying a couple weeks ago with the old lady. He isn't the most disciplined guy in the house, is he?
No, he's not. And all that stuff on ESPN was so unnecessary on Friday. I'm like, why do we need to know about this man's personal life and feuds and beef with his mom and his girl? I'm like, come on, let's get to the fight already. We don't need this.
You know what's funny is that the beef with his mother and all that kind of good stuff. I can relate to that in boxing. I just I can. I remember my mother telling me, "Look, Chris says you can't eat." I said, "What do you mean I can't eat?" So you can't eat. So what am I going? What's for dinner? She goes, "Broccoli." I said, "Broccoli, yeah, with barbecue sauce." I mean, so she came up with some innovative little dietary tricks there. But the bottom line is, when they said I couldn't eat, I couldn't eat. Of course, Johnny, you know what making weight's all about. Gervonta Davis, the real deal, though, at 21-0. I mean, they call him the tank. Is he called the tank because he's fat?
He can get fat in between fights. But when he's in the ring, he looks good. He's fast. He's powerful. I like him. I like to see where he goes next. I am looking forward to seeing this fight on Showtime on Saturday.
So the 126-pound, 130-pound division, 135-pound division, of course, Lomachenko, the king at 135 right now. Can we agree on that without a doubt? At lightweight, he's like undisputed right now?
Oh, of course. I expect him to get past his next assignment against Luke Campbell on ESPN August 31st. I mean, but, Teofimo had mentioned that, Campbell is tall as well. So Lomachenko might have some issues there. And I think that's why Teofimo had some issues on Friday. But I think he is the kingpin. I would like to see when the smoke clears who's going to be the guy to face him between Comey and Teofimo Lopez. I favor Richard Comey as the guy to go out there and put on a competitive fight down the stretch when the smoke clears.
No doubt about it. This is the great John Signorella. Of course, he is featured on Ring Talk Live worldwide each and every Saturday, each and every Sunday here on the Sports Byline broadcast. And, of course, talking boxing and MMA. Now, what were the finishing lines in the Manny Pacquiao fight? Pacquiao was favored. What was the line?
I think it got down to 2-1. It was tight. It was tight. Originally, you got to remember because Thurman was the favorite, and a lot of Pacquiao money came in, so it was very tight towards the end. Oh yeah,
a lot. I mean, how do you swing the fight from one guy being like 8-5 to the other guy being 2-1? Holy cow, that's a lot of money.
Name recognition, and Vegas loves Manny.
Manny Pacquiao defied the odds, defied Father Time once again. If he takes on, where does he go? I mean, Mayweather talks about maybe coming out of retirement. I don't want to see that again. And, the rematch with Keith Thurman would be highly entertaining. But like Larry said, highly entertaining. Larry told me on the phone earlier this morning, highly entertaining, yes, but will they go there? Maybe not. What do you think?
If he was young, I'd say the next opponent would be the winner of Spence versus Porter. However, Pacquiao shouldn't go there. I'd like to see him hang it up, but he did say, Pacquiao said, I am fighting next year.
Okay, one more quick question for you. If you were going to fight Earl Spence, would you go to Mikey Garcia for advice?
Absolutely not.
John Signorello will be back. You are tuned to the Mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network.
He must know that I'm not like no other fighter. I can give it, and I can take it.
You're listening to the MMA Hour. Now, more of the MMA Hour with Pedro Fernandez.
Time to pay tribute to Sweet Pea Whitaker, a victim of a traffic accident, stepped in front of a car, got hit in his native Virginia this past week, and passed away at the age of 55 years old. Of course, an outstanding professional, but people think that he was just a boxer. I mean, he was so slick as far as boxing was concerned that he conned some guys into getting knocked out. I remember when he knocked out Juan Nazario with like one punch back in 1990. I was just sitting down. We were like Caesar's Tahoe. I think it was outdoors. And we're sitting down up there, Lake Tahoe, State Line, Nevada, just sitting down, folks. I mean, that even got our just sitting down. The fight's over. Pernell Whitaker ending a fight that quick, like in the blink of an eye. Straight up, 2 minutes and 59 seconds, knocking out Juan Nazario. Juan Nazario, I think, came in top ranked at that point in time. But to beat guys like Azuma Nelson, and I mean, Freddie Pendleton was a decent fighter that he beat. But Jose Luis Ramirez, he lost to Ramirez. That was a bit of a ripoff, folks. I mean, a big-time ripoff. Let me tell you about this. I'm watching this on TV. It's on CBS television. I remember the channel. And Jose Luis Ramirez and Pernell Whitaker fight in Paris. And Whitaker loses a split decision. And I'm like blown away by it. I can't believe it. I think Whitaker won I think I had it like 118, 112, something like long score. But the judges didn't feel that way. Harry Gibbs, a good judge out of London, felt that way. But Newton Campos had it 118, 113 for the other guy. And so did Louis Michael had it 116, 115. Both for Jose Luis Ramirez. And Pernell Whitaker pitched almost a shutout in that fight. So what I'm trying to tell you is that Whitaker not only got jobbed against Oscar De La Hoya because he knocked De La Hoya down in that fight. In fact, that's what sort of caused the dissension between myself and Todd DeBuff, because after that fight was over, Todd DeBuff, the vice president of Top Rank, came to me and says, "What do you think, Pedro?" I said, "I think that Pernell got screwed," and he didn't like to hear that. But I mean, he beat guys like Azuma Nelson, and they were great fighters. And people will think that that Jorge Paez was a decent fighter. He was. He beat Buddy McGirt. And there was a Chavez fight, of course, a draw. Man, that stunk to high heaven. Let me tell you about this. As I said, I bet Jack Tatum some money on the fight. I paid Jack after the 10th round. The fight was over in my mind, okay? It was over. And then they called it a draw. What a ripoff. The judges went 115, 113, 115, 113 for Whitaker. Mickey Van, the garbage man from London, that's what he does for a trade. He's in the sanitation business. 115, 115. And Franz Marty, I believe he was from Italy. He had a 115, 115 as well. And it was even on those two scorecards, which is a bit of a ripoff. Because the 115, 113, that was a bit of a... it was a lot more one-sided than that. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is that he lost 4 fights in his life, did Sweet Pea Whitaker. 4 fights, 40 wins, 4 losses, got stopped once, 17 KOs, not a big punch, but he showed, of course, lightning in that left cross when he knocked out Juan Nazario. But, he's known for being a defensive wizard. He's known for being Sweet Pea Whitaker. He's known for being the man for in the 1984 Olympics.
We are sitting here with Pernell Whitaker, and I want you to recognize that we are talking to one of the best defensive fighters of all time.
You are talking to the best.
The best, bad. Yeah. Correction. We are talking to the best defensive fighter of all time, and arguably the best Olympian ever.
Good call.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
Agree?
I
agree?
Oh,
okay.
Yes, I agree.
So I want to go back to the Olympics. I want to go back all these years. Your team in the Olympics consisted of Meldrick Taylor, Steve McCroy, Mark Breland, Tyrell Biggs, Holyfield. So do you still keep in touch with any of them guys? You close to any of them?
I'm always be close to them. Always be close to all of them, you know. That was the best Olympic team you're going to find in history. You're not going to find a better Olympic team than 1984. So, but all those guys I'm very close to, and I get a chance to see them when I come out to little shows, to boxing matches like this, you know. And we get to reminisce, you know. We don't want to see each other every month, you know. No.
What are some of the funny memories that you remember of that team back then? Like any embarrassing moments or a funny story that you could share with us? I mean, 'cause that's a pretty fun group right there.
Yeah. You know, we were like 11 brothers. Everybody was like a brother. Nobody's bigger than nobody else. Nobody's better than nobody else. We're just going out here, and we're going to represent the United States, and we're going to get some gold medals.
I know that's right.
And we end up getting 9 of them, you know. So, you know, but all those guys, they're great guys, and they're my brothers.
Okay. Some of our listeners may be a little upset with me with what I'm about to say, but you are the first fighter that really, truly beat Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. You beat him.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not surprised. I mean, I don't know why would I be surprised, you know, but the fans, the world saw it. The world saw it, so, you know, I in no sense, I can't make up no excuses of why they called it a draw.
Right. So I want to know what happened to you when you got robbed in that fight. I want to know
mentally?
Because a lot of people don't realize how that affects a fighter. I mean, there's a really dark side in boxing where when something is taken from you or robbed from you, what type of depression and darkness that a fighter goes into. Were you bitter? Were you just how'd you react to that robbery?
Well, you know, actually it was 63,000 people in the house and 63 millions of people watching it. You know, around the world. And, you know, everybody got, as long as I know that the world got a chance to see it, you know, and I didn't put my career around the 4 guys sitting around looking at me, watching me instead of watching the fight, you know, and watching to see if he catch up to me, you know, or hit me with something that can hurt me. You know, they've been waiting for that to happen for the whole 17 years I was a pro, and that never happened. So, you know, but hey, the world got a chance to see it, and it was a great fight for me. You know, I gave them what they wanted to see, little tricks and beat him at his own game.
The 1984 Olympic team, of course, Meldrick Taylor, Evander Holyfield, God, the names Mark Breland, I mean, all these guys that won gold, and Jerry Page. Jerry Page won a gold medal. People don't remember that. Of course, Jerry Page, I believe, out of Cincinnati, Ohio, the unsung hero, the guy that I was going after that 139-pound slot. That's what I wanted, of course, finishing number 13, and I definitely got much, much further than I deserved to go in that Olympic trial process. But 13 was a finish, of course, the man being that year, Jerry Page at 139 pounds. This was back when the junior welterweight limit was 139. But Pernell Whitaker, what can you say about Pernell except stellar greatness? 40-4, 1 draw. I mean, that draw with Chavez, you know, he won that fight. He won the fight with Oscar as well. So, you know, there's not too many fights he really lost. He didn't. He lost 2 fights. Got stopped at the end. Lost the Trinidad fight, no doubt about that, but he was way past his peak. And Trinidad was a huge welterweight, a guy that we used to shrink down and ended up winning a title at 160 pounds, but he would shrink down to 147, where Pernell was a 135-pounder that moved up to 147. So big size discrepancy there. Of course, Pernell Whitaker, the man, no doubt about that. Getting hit by a car is not the way to go. And I said earlier this week, I think I said on a broadcast, that if you get hit by a car, it's your own fault. Right, and then I got out in the middle of Lake Merced Boulevard yesterday after a jog, and I got sort of trapped and I froze, and I said to myself, you know, if I got clipped right now, it would be my fault. No, it wouldn't be my fault. Yes, it would. It would be my fault. I stepped out in the street, but I didn't think that I was in jeopardy. I didn't think it was Harry until this car moving faster than you thought. What I'm trying to tell you is, don't step out in the street unless you know what's happening. It's just the way it is. Look both ways. Just like your mom told you. Still applies. What mom says still applies. Look both ways, and wash between your ears. You know what I'm talking about. You're tuned to the mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network.
You're listening to the MMA Hour.
You're tuned to the mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Real quick, Lenny Williams, the icon, the soul singer, the man with that "Cause I Love You" song, of course, that platinum recording artist. His brother Thurman passed away last night. It was unexpectedly. The family will miss him, and our condolences are with the Williams family. Now, we go from that to Gennaro Hernandez. He's rocking and rolling. He's feeling good. Let's listen to Gennaro about 3 months before he passed. On the line from the City of Angels is one of my good friends, a man that I consider a true gentleman in and out of the ring. He is the one, the only Gennaro Hernandez. What's up, Chicanito?
Hey, Pedro, how you doing? And good evening to everybody out there listening to the show.
Good evening to you, sir. How's my buddy feeling? How you feeling, man?
Well, thanks for asking. The last couple of days it's been pretty hard trying to recover from the chemo cycle that I had all last week. I was in the hospital getting chemo Tuesday to Friday, so it starts taking effect. And yesterday was one of those days where I was just weak. I mean, I had no energy, no whatsoever.
Okay. So other than that, other than the chemo last week, any news? Have they told you anything? Are things progressing? Are things going the wrong way? How are things happening?
Well, the bad thing about it is that they've done some scans and they've noticed on the lymph nodes that are close to the lungs and to the kidneys, it shows that I have two additional cancer cells around there, and I got what they say. I think they told me it was like a 2 centimeter length cancer cell roaming around the tip of my lung. So it's not looking very well right now, but we're still not giving up on all this.
Good enough. Gennaro Hernandez is our guest, folks. Of course, the two-time world champion, a man that lost only 2 fights in his entire career, and of course, he always came to fight. Speaking of coming to fight, were you surprised that Sugar Shane Mosley did not come to fight against Manny Pacquiao? I was sort of a little disturbed by that.
Pedro, I don't know what went through Shane's mind at the time.
That girlfriend of his, you see the booty on her? That was probably what went through his mind. He wanted to get her because he wanted to get out of the ring and take care of her.
Well, it did seem like he was in there showing that he just was out there to survive. Unfortunately, he got hit, and I guess it just lightened some type of spark in his brain, saying that, I'm a little, I'm getting to the age where I'm a little too old. I don't want to take a beating no more. Or I don't want to take any punches no more. So he went into survival mode. I don't know. One thing that I heard from somebody close to them that worked in this camp was the fact that at the last minute, and I'm not sure whether this played a part or not, but he put on some boxing shoes as an advertisement, and as a promotional thing, you try to make a little extra money, which obviously he didn't need to do, but he did. From what I heard, he put on a new pair of shoes that were never broken in, and at the end of the night, there was a pretty big blister that kind of popped in there on his right foot that just was bothering him from the 3rd or 4th round. That's what I heard.
Gennaro, don't we all know that we don't wear brand new boxing shoes in the ring? Don't we? Isn't that sort of accepted around the world? We all know that. We've been fighting. I fought 19 years. You fought a long time. We both know that you just don't do that. It's just not done. The guys that have done that, I can go back and think of them: Orlando Canizales, Gerardo Martinez, guys like that. They both had very, very traumatic events because of these big blisters on their feet. But correct. Shane Mosley trying to make a couple extra bucks, man. Did Jen Mosley, did his wife take all that much? Did his ex-wife take that much?
Pedro, I don't know how hard he got hit in his pocket, but, when you get a divorce, it's not nice, And unfortunately for Shane, if it is true that, that the shoes played a part of it, then, it's understandable why he didn't move and stick the way he told me he was going to do. So, yeah, so to me, it was very disappointing to see Shane look the way he did because, to be honest with you, when I saw Shane 2 weeks before the fight, he was excited. He even convinced me that he was going to be the fighter that I knew back in the 90s, which was stick and move and use power and use speed, but he didn't use any of it. So, to me, you know, like I said, only Shane knows what happened that night, and he claims that he'd never been hit as hard of a punch by anybody as he did that night. So, you know, it was just disappointing to me, but, you know, only Shane could answer all those questions.
Good point. We're talking with Genaro Hernandez, folks. We do have open phone lines coast to coast all across Canada, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands as you are tuned to the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and the American Forces Network. 1-800-878-PLAY. That's 1-800-878-7529. Hot topic on the website brought up by my previous guest, one of my writers, Slam and Sammy Perez, Genaro, and that is the use of boxing gloves, Genaro. I always thought that when I fought other guys, I used to wear 8s. I weighed 139 pounds, so they let me wear 8-ounce gloves. I always wanted the other guy to wear the same type of gloves as I. If we were both wearing Everlast, that was cool. If we were both wearing Reyes, that was cool. We were both wearing some other brand, that was cool. But we both had to wear the same gloves in my mind to make things fair and across the board. Now you've got guys wearing different gloves, and whether they weigh the same or not, they're going to they're going to inflict different amounts of damage. The results from the punches will be different. How do you feel about that? Should guys be wearing the same gloves?
Well, I mean, I do feel that, you know, in a world title fight, they should be using the same type of brand of gloves. But then again, nowadays, with these promotional companies, or these boxing glove companies paying more to have their gloves advertised on TV, and the TV allowing all this, and plus the commissioners, you know, by all means, you know, they want to make money one way or another, and I think it's wrong what they're doing. But, you know, my thing is that if I'm a fighter and you give me Cleto Reyes gloves, I'm going to use those gloves. And if my opponent wants to wear Grant, which are a little more spongier, and they're going to inflict less pain on me, then more power to my opponent because he's taking his power away, and there's less chances that I'll get hurt. So for me, hey, whatever gloves you want to wear, just as long as you don't force me to use whatever brand of gloves you want to use.
But don't you think, in the old days, wasn't it always the call of the champion, or they flipped a coin during negotiations as to who would have the choice of the gloves, something like that? Wasn't it wasn't either one or the other?
Well, back in the day, when I used to fight, the champion always had first choice of choosing the glove. It wasn't much about, you know, any type of brand that was out there at the time, because the only gloves that I've ever used and they ever offered me to use at the time was Cleto Reyes. We never had that opportunity of, I got to use, or we can choose Grant or Everlast or any other brand like right now. Nowadays, they give you the option because you're ordering your robe and your shorts, and we can add the glove color the same way. You know, it's all about style now, I guess, for a lot of fighters. But for me, I don't care what color shorts or whatever I was going to use. My glove was going to be Cleto Reyes, and it was going to be either red or blue, like in the old days.
Okay, General, I got a question for you. Is Juan Manuel Marquez, is he in a no-win situation against Manny Pacquiao, especially if they fight like at 145 pounds or 147 pounds in November?
You know, with all due respect to Juan Manuel Marquez, I think he's a great guy. But in reality, I see no chance in him winning this fight. I mean, yeah, he's given Manny Pacquiao the hardest fights, I believe, since he's become this big idol. But I honestly believe that Juan Manuel, his time has come up already. You know, I think that he may give a good shot at it, but that I see him winning the fight, I honestly don't see him with any chance of winning this fight.
Would he have a chance if the fight was at 140?
Well, I think he has a better chance at 140. Because I think Manny would have a little more trouble trying to come down and kill that weight that he's put on. And he hasn't fought at 140 for quite some time now. So I think his body will give him trouble to come down to 140.
Yeah, speaking of 140 and Manny Pacquiao, I thought his most impressive performance in history as far as all of his title fights were concerned. I thought his most impressive performance was against Ricky Hatton. And although Ricky Hatton was a bit limited, Ricky Hatton came to fight. And Ricky Hatton went down slugging, unlike these other guys who just stand there and like take the beating and end up going down. But I thought Ricky Hatton brought it that night. What do you think Pacquiao's best moment has been?
I think the best moment, and with all due respect, and I have nothing against anybody, but I think the way he beat Oscar, even although Oscar came back from a 2-year retirement, I mean, just the way that he displayed everything and just pummeled on Oscar and hit him whenever he wanted to, because Oscar was a good defensive fighter as well. He was pretty quick. He had power. He had speed. But that night, Manny just showed that he was just way too much, and Oscar was way out of his league.
Sugar Ray Leonard came down to 160 pounds to fight Hector Camacho back, I believe, in the late 1990s. I televised a fight from Atlantic City. He hadn't been at that weight in years. They made him weigh in. Mike Akery, who was Camacho's manager, made him weigh in the morning of the fight, so he didn't have much time to put back on weight. Do you think making these guys go to unnatural weights they hadn't been at in a long time, do you think that just is such a detriment that they can't overcome it?
Well, I mean, there are some fighters that, that have trouble even making the weight limit that they're supposed to be at. Like, for instance, if Manny Pacquiao, I'm not sure how much he walks around with now, but, I'm pretty sure he comes down to 147. He feels a natural 147-pounder now. Whereas, like myself, where I used to fight at 130 pounds, and I would walk around like maybe 5 pounds over the weight limit, and I had no trouble, not until the end. But, I mean, you're looking at a guy who fought 14 years at the same weight class, so the body obviously wants to grow and get a little stronger. But, I just didn't allow it. I just think that, it just depends on certain metabolisms on the fighters.
Okay. Were you impressed with Andre Ward the other night?
I was very impressed with Andre Ward. I think he did a phenomenal job of what he did. He's just an exciting fighter, and we'll see what happens after this.
Okay. You look at Andre Ward, he's a true gentleman. You look at Robert Guerrero, another true gentleman. Paul Malinagi's a pretty good guy. I mean, Paulie's got a big mouth, but deep down inside, he's really a good-hearted guy. All three of these guys said if they were to fight Manny Pacquiao, they would demand random drug tests. They don't believe that Manny Pacquiao is doing things legitimately, or they suspect that he's not doing things legitimately. If you were to fight him, would you be asking for random drug tests?
I'm not the type of guy that wants to impose and put rules down. I have no problem. If they were to offer me a fight against Manny Pacquiao, if I was still fighting, I have no problem fighting Manny Pacquiao, taking the drug or not taking the drug, or doing this or doing that. I have no problem in fighting him any night. And the reason why is because he's human. Eventually, you hit a wall, it's going to fall, it's going to break, and that's what they got to do. You can't hit a guy in the face. You got to hit a guy in the body to tear it down. And that's something that people are not understanding, that Manny Pacquiao is not beatable by hitting him in the face. Manny Pacquiao is beaten by hitting him to the body.
That is the great Genaro Hernandez, folks. We wish you the very best as far as your recovery is concerned, man, and you're welcome on this show anytime you need, anytime you want to, and if you need me, I'd fly down there in a heartbeat for you. You realize that, right?
Beto, I have always appreciated you. I know you're a very great friend, a very good guy. Anytime that you would like to hear anything about my point of view or anything, my doors are open for you. I would never say no to you because you're one of the best guys out there.
Okay, do me a favor, say hello to that lovely wife of yours because she's a tremendous lady, okay?
Well, thank you very much. I would do that now. Like I said to everybody, God bless everybody. Hope everybody has a good evening. And Pedro, continue doing what you do best, and this is what you do best, right?
He makes me cry. Every time I listen to that interview, I want to cry. Every single time. Even when we did pre-production this morning, I was like, got the eyes just got a little bit wet. They just did. Of course, we'll hear a clip from Gennaro a little bit later in the show in our closing segment, which sort of tells it all. But what a gentleman he was. He was a class act. He was working for the CompuBox people, counting punches and that kind of good stuff. He was happy doing that. Did he ever get the props he should have got? Probably not. Get this. He only lost to Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather. That was it. Lost to those two guys. Didn't lose to nobody else. 38-2-1. Pretty damn good record. The late Chicanito Hernandez. You're tuned to the Sports Byline Broadcast Network.
Now, more of Ring Talk with Pedro Fernandez.
Let's take it to Southern California, bring in the great Gennaro Hernandez. Gennaro, it's a very sad moment for me to have you on the radio at this point in time, but I thank you for spending some time with us this morning.
Pedro, I appreciate you giving me the time like always.
Well, what made you decide to end the chemotherapy? What was the decision behind that?
I didn't decide. The doctors they claimed that the chemo that I had done in this last cycle, which was about a month ago, it was one of the hardest ones supposedly, but it's just not doing anything to control the cancer, and the cancer it's exploding all over me. And
wow, Gennaro Hernandez, may he rest in peace. Of course, he championed and never lost at 130 pounds outside of the fight with Floyd Mayweather. Of course, he retired in that Floyd Mayweather fight. And the Oscar De La Hoya fight, he went into with a broken nose. Real quick before we head for the showers, Johnny Signorella, what's happening at YouTube?
Hey, type in Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Check out today's show, archive shows, and much more. Everyone, enjoy your Sunday.
Great weekend of boxing, no doubt about that. I thank you so much, Johnny Sig. And, of course, Johnny Signorella is featured week in and week out on the Sunday edition of Ring Talk Live Worldwide right here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Want to thank him. Want to thank the Godfather, Larry Merchant. Want to thank Manny Pacquiao for showing up and Keith Thurman for showing up and being a class act as well. Both guys performed admirably last night, and it was a plus for the world of boxing. Not a blight on the world of boxing, a plus for the world of boxing. Speaking of a plus for the world of boxing, each and every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, Ring Talk Live